Welcome, everyone. My name is Terry Bybee, and I am the founder of Women Who Risk. And I'm very excited to be adding Valerie Martinelli to my Women Leaders interview series. So today, Valerie's going to tell us I'm just worlds of interesting things about joyful risk, about from her perspective with her life and her career. So, Valerie, would you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
So I am the CEO of Valerie Martinelli Consulting. Talk about risk. I've been doing this for 10 years now. Um, and so I work with women and some men on finding new careers and career advancement and helping them develop their leadership skills, helping them develop their career skills and their career management skills, and increase their salary by 15 to $60,000 on their job offer or any other way that we can get them more money brings us joy. And
Excellent.
yeah, and
And we'll
I
get into,
love my work.
and that is a blessing all in itself, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
So, all right, well, let's talk about this. So, what has inspired you to take joyful risk in your career?
So going back, Terry, and I'm sure you know this, but let's share it with everyone else. When you're unhappy in what you're doing, it's a risk of, do I stay unhappy and look at myself 10 years down the road and be even unhappier? Or do I take a risk and take a leap and find myself doing what I love? Either is a risk. I hate to say it because some people think that staying in corporate or in not even necessarily corporate. I was working in nonprofit, but you understand what I'm saying. Staying employed, we'll put it that way. For some people is the safe route, but no longer the safe route if you know so many people who are getting riffed. To me, that was not the safe route because unhappiness is not safe. Unhappiness brings you miserable and sickness and all the bad things. So to me, it was taking the leap and finding happiness, finding the joy, finding what makes you want to get out of bed every day instead of getting up and going, "Oh, my alarm went off again. I gotta go back to that place." And thinking like that, nobody wants to be that person. And nobody wants to be around that person. I hate to say it, but
Well, and that's such a good point from the perspective of tapping in where are you emotionally and mentally? Because those two tie together a lot. And just as you said,
uh-huh.
that can lead to physical ailments and such as well. But
Oh,
if you don't pay
definitely.
attention, if you're so used to suppressing your own needs, your emotions, then not only is it a risk, it's definitely not a joyful risk, is it? But the fact that you were smart enough, brave enough to actually pay attention and then take steps. And you took, like you said, yours was kind of a leap. And we don't all have to take leaps, but it's paying attention so that you can take the next step to course correct if you're on a path that's going to just lead you to more unhappiness, as you said. So beautiful point made. Thank you for sharing that. So if we're looking at your career and or your life, we're dual or multifaceted, honestly, as
Oh
humans as
yeah.
well as especially women in this
Oh
day and
yeah.
age. So if you looked at some of these risks you've taken, what would be maybe the one of the most significant risks that you've taken, and what were the outcomes from taking that risk?
I will say right off the bat, I've taken some crazy risk and I don't think I regret any of them, even though probably some of them have kind of blown up in my face.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, like you said, you can take a step, right? You can take a step towards starting a business on the side while still employed, right? You can take a step. I've taken leaps. Like you said, I left my job. One of the biggest risks I've taken was I left my job while I could have probably stayed a little longer and started the business. I took a giant leap with nothing underneath me. And so that was okay, maybe not comfortable for everyone, but for me, it was not comfortable to stay because the things I was dealing with inside the workplace were worse. So what everyone's comfort zone is obviously very different, but that's one thing that I've done. Another thing that I did was this year, even though dealing with a lot with my family, dealing a lot with anyone who knows me, my dad is sick. My dad has been very sick. Um, I decided to start a whole new program, and I decided to start, it wasn't even just one program, it was a whole series that I got my hands into. So, you know, I could have said, no, now's not a good time. I got to sit on the side and sit on my hands and say, can't do that now. I got the urge at the end of last year and said, you know what? I have the urge to make some changes. I have the 10-year itch. And there literally is a 10-year itch, in case anyone understands. I started to say, I gotta start doing some other things. I have a 10-year itch right now. I know this man is very ill, and I know what I need to do for my family, but guess what? Self-care. Self-care sometimes involves taking a risk for yourself. Self-care sometimes involves making yourself happy with your career, with your life, with an adventure. Maybe it's jumping out of a plane, who knows? But okay, that's not my kind of risk. But I'm too scared. I'm too afraid of heights. But I had to start doing it. And so I just did. And sometimes these are the leaps that we need to take. Sometimes risk is a leap. Sometimes risk is a step. But to me, it has to bring you joy.
Well, and that's the joyful risk. I mean, it truly
Yeah,
is the focus that this series is all about, and really my entire platform, because everything is a risk. Just like you said earlier, not doing something or
is a
doing
risk.
nothing, no change, is a risk.
It is because in
So
5 years
it's
you could go back and say, oh my God, I wish I did that thing. I wish
well,
I
and
tried that thing.
just the fact that you are in a situation that either the situation's bad, your emotions are bad, your mental state is bad, whatever that is, holding that energy is a risk. Closing yourself down to stay in this kind of reduced space is a risk. So you being willing and able, because those two kind of go together here in this, and courageous enough to take it, in your case, you are a leap taker, then it's a risk worth pursuing. And I want to go back and talk for a second about something else you'd said. So you'd mentioned that sometimes it blew up in your face. The risks were worthwhile regardless. Sometimes they blew up in your face. What is the, let me restate. How have you overcome feelings of self doubt or fear when taking these risks, especially if it's not smooth sailing, which honestly, how often are they? But in these cases that you're talking about blowing up on you, how did you overcome self doubt and fear around those situations?
I think it's a lot of self-confidence, honestly, Terry. And for me at this stage, I know it's going to sound really weird to people, but I'm looking at things in through a much different lens right now. I'm looking at through the rear view of what would my father want for me?
Mm,
Um, if my life was this, what would I want for me too? What would make him proud? If he was to pass away in 2 weeks, what would make him very proud? What would make him proud of me? And not that I'm trying to live my life to make someone else happy, but I'm looking at it through a different lens, and that's through the lens of life is so short now.
mm,
And it's through the lens of death can come at any time. I mean, and like I said, anybody who knows me, my brother was on life support last year too, and he's young. He's not an old guy, he's a young guy. So, I mean, to see how things can happen like this, and to see that if we don't do the things that we want to do, even if we're scared, that sometimes fear to me is not an excuse to sit back and sit on your hands and twiddle your thumbs and say, I'm afraid to do this thing. Well, you know what? I'm afraid to not do them because I'm
Mm,
afraid I've watched two people that I'm very close to in my life come very close. One of them is going to go. And it, for that to happen and then be able to sit back and say, but I'm afraid to start something new. I'm afraid that someone's going to reject me. I'm afraid that someone is not going to like me. Well, you know what? That seems so small. To be honest
mm,
with you, okay, say no. Say you don't like me. Say it all. You know what? I actually don't care. That is not going to make or break me at the end of my day.
yeah. When we're looking at the bigger picture, which I
Yeah,
think so often we we as women from a generalized perspective, but people in general, but we as women tend to super focus on things that worry us, things that we angst over from the past, things that we worry about for the future, rather than placing ourselves solidly in the moment so that we can really have true perspective of just as you're saying. So, maybe people put you down, or maybe they don't believe in your vision, or that's out there. So when you come back and turn it in, how do you feel about it? Erase all that outside interference.
it's your vision. How do you see it
Tap
playing
in.
out?
And you gotta tap in deep, because it is the you can't live your life any more vibrantly than living in the moment. So you got to tap in deep of, where am I right now? And sometimes right now is saying, okay, you got to take a nap, right? You got to take a break. You got to self care. And then there's in the back of your mind, there may be, and I'm doing that so that I have the energy, I can have the focus, the motivation to take that step to
And
my greatest, best self and future. And
sometimes
that
you
is
have to take
trusting.
yeah, sometimes you have to take a step back to take a step forward. And if a step back is a nap, listen, go for it, do it. I would never tell you not to. In fact, I would tell you to go get a blanket, get a pillow, and go. Put down the cup of coffee, forget it. Go do it. Because you will wake up with a clear head, a clear mind, and you will be able to see things so much better. And so sleep is one of the best things that we need. I hate to say it. Like sleep depriving ourselves, one of the worst things we could ever do to ourselves. Don't do it. You will see things with a clear head, a clear mind. Take that nap. Go ahead, do it. Don't push yourself and go through the cup of coffee like three times over during the day. Even if it is just a 15-minute nap, so what? Do it. You'll you will thank yourself. But steps backwards to take leaps forward are so underrated. I hate to say it. Sometimes it's taking an hour off or taking 2 hours off or a whole day and then being able to really figure out the next day, oh, I'm really focused. I know what it is I need to do with this thing. Let me sit down and work on it. Instead of staring at your computer screen for 8 hours, frustrating yourself and never being able to get anything done because you're super unclear and your mind is everywhere.
When I was thinking about the visual that you gave of taking a step back to leap forward, I've thought about, I really think about it from a kid's perspective, and maybe that's a really good place to go, where they kind of take the steps back and then run, leap. So giving themselves space to build the momentum to take the leap. So that's a really, really good visual for people to keep in mind, because it's not, I do not believe in the hustle, 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 because it's not very self-aware, it's not very living in the moment, it's overperforming. And actually I talked about that in Changing the World for Women this past month. It's over functioning. So we've got to be aware of where we are in the moment, and then have the clarity, and maybe it takes the nap, the clarity to see where we are in the moment, so we're not worrying about the past, we're not angsting about the future. Instead, where are we now and where do we want to be? It's not about not looking at the future, but it's not about worrying about it. It's like, you got to have the vision. And maybe that's where a lot of people aren't focusing, What is your vision? You know, they talk about the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan. I hated that in interviews
No,
because
I
I
never liked
wasn't
that
forward
either.
thinking at that time. But now it's like, okay, where do I want to be? Thinking about that, it's might be a pretty good gap from here to there. But if you don't know where you want to be, you don't know what steps to take. And as I said earlier, from another perspective we were talking about, you can course correct, but you have to have movement. So whatever steps those are.
But two things for women though, Terry, is learning to say no
Mhm.
is can be hard and holding your boundaries,
Yeah, I was
right? So
exact when you said that, when I immediately thought, yes, boundaries. It's all about boundaries.
it's all about boundaries, right? Because it's about your space, your time. And so, if you know you can't do anything this day and if you know you need to take care of yourself, whether it's a spa day or a nap or a walk or anything, right? You know that you need to do those things. And if somebody's pushing you, but come do this thing with me, or let's go out, let's go do this thing, and you just don't want to do it. You just don't have it in you. You're too tired. You know, Pushing yourself to do it isn't going to make it better because you've made someone else happy. You can't
Will it
do
make
that.
you happy? I mean, you might be tired
Exactly.
and still do something, but it's important to check in. Is it for me or is it for them?
And you can't constantly live your life for other people just to make them happy if you're draining your own cup.
Well, and you don't want to. I mean, I'm flat out say, and you don't want to live your life to make other people. Now,
No.
if what you do makes them happy, fantastic. But you got to be coming from your own center of awareness, center of compassion, center of love. Um, yeah,
You can't always
all of the good
operate from
stuff.
a half empty cup.
Yeah, if you don't fill the well, you have nothing to share with others. I read somewhere that this woman, her philosophy of life is fill my well to overflowing, because it's the overflow that's going to benefit other people. If I'm dipping at the bottom of my well to help somebody else out, they're not getting quality
No,
and
that's
I'm
true.
draining myself.
Mhm.
So yeah, you've got to fill your own cup. You got to fill your well, so that you have reserve to work from. So beautiful. So knowing, we've got family, we've got our personal lives, we have career. How do you balance risk taking with your responsibilities in personal life?
So, I think sometimes it's about mitigating it, right? It's about knowing when to not be crazy and knowing when to be cautious, right? And it's about think about it, right? I mean, think about it. Not overanalyze it, but just put some careful thought into it, mitigate it. If you know that it's not going to be the time to do something, again, hold your boundary. No, thank you, but now is not the time for this. I would be up for it later on when it's a better time for me. It sounds interesting, but just the present time isn't good. I just don't have the bandwidth for it. And that's okay, right? Because life throws us curveballs that we just have to deal with. It is what it is. It doesn't make the other thing bad or good. It just indifferent. We have to do what we have to do. And so sometimes, we have to just say, I'll get to that at some point. And you will. You will. It's not about putting it off. It's not about, I don't want to do it or ever. It's about just prioritizing what is in front of you sometimes. And sometimes we
Yeah.
have to do that. I wrote a Substack note about that yesterday. Sometimes, you do get overwhelmed and it's about taking baby steps. And you
Mhm.
do have to sometimes, each day take a baby step. And as long as you keep going forward, you have to go forward. As long as it's forward movement, sometimes you just say, okay, great, I've gone forward today, right? Even if it's a small risk, even if it's a tiny thing. And we take risk no matter what we're doing. We
Mhm.
just don't think about it that way.
Right. Every day, so many times, and we don't realize it. And the fear comes from thinking we don't know how to take risks,
Yep.
when especially as women we do it constantly,
Yep.
trying to balance our needs, our desires, other people's needs and desires, uh, all the dang time. we do it.
It's a risk just to even speak up sometimes. I hate to say it, right? Like sometimes it's a risk just to even say something and stick up for yourself, but you have to do it. If you don't stick up for yourself, no one's going to stick up for us but ourselves. We have to do it. But sometimes it's not okay to do that, or we feel like it's a big risk if we do it, but it's got to be done. So just the small things sometimes make big deals.
It's really about starting with us,
Yep,
right? You have to be paying attention. You have to know what's going on in yourself, in
yep,
your life, and the
I
greater
agree.
circumstances. And if you don't start with you, then it's going to be a muddle, right? You're just going to be, you just don't even know what's going on. And one of
Hmm.
the things that I really believe in is momentum counts. I think the universe or God or whatever perspective you use
Hmm.
to think about these things is paying attention. When we say we want something, we want it, we dream about it, we think about it, we write it down, whatever. That's great and wonderful, but it's when we take those steps, that one little step, that then you get this recognition. Oh, you're ready. You're doing something about it. And that's what creates that momentum. That's what creates the manifestation of what it is that you're dreaming about, what you're thinking about, what you're creating, because you have put out there, I'm not just thinking about it, I'm not just planning it, I'm doing now. You put the energy into it, and that is going to escalate. It's going to build every little step or leap in your case is going to give you the feedback of, oh, well, so you're doing it, let me help you. Right? I think what we put out there is what we get back. So all the dreaming, thinking, all that, it's kind of a weak energy compared to, and I took a step, even if it's a little step, because it's momentum that is then built on and fed back to you.
That's why I'm highly against overworking, because then you just burn yourself out and it's weak energy after that. That's why I think even if you spend an hour a day channeling your energy on something that you want, you're building that momentum. It's going to come. You're building that momentum. It's going to come. And it's about building that momentum and prioritizing if that's important to you. And instead of shying away and saying, I'm afraid, that sounds big, I'm not going to get it. No, don't tell yourself that. You don't know that.
Right. Right.
The,
And we
the
are
universe will
our
reward
harshest
you.
critics, where we need to actually be our biggest cheerleaders for
Uh-huh.
ourselves. Right.
Hmm.
So, what do you think women of the world need to hear right now about taking joyful, purposeful risks?
I know, I think we're probably at one of our scariest times that what we've seen in a long time, right, Terry? I mean, just everything that's going on around us. I think that there's so much happening and there's so much noise and so many things that we want to change. But, I think, like you said, we need to start with ourselves. And I think we need to not shy away from it. Find one thing that you want to change for yourself. Whether it's personal, whether it's life, whether it's career, it doesn't matter as long as it makes you happy. But find out one thing and decide how it is you're going to work on it. And then take some active steps toward it every day. Like we said, you don't have to spend 8 hours a day on it. Spend 1 hour, spend 2 hours, spend a half hour. But as long as your forward moving momentum keeps building and growing,
Mhm.
you will be rewarded by getting that thing. You
Or you
just,
course correct because you realize, oh, that wasn't what I thought it was, and or okay, that got me partway there, but it didn't give me every thing I wanted. Or, but again, staying in the moment and aware of your circumstance and what's going on with it.
how I describe that to people. You're driving the car, and as long as you stay in the driver's seat of that car, you can course correct any time you want or
Mm,
need. Don't let anybody else take that wheel from you,
that's really
ever.
good. Yeah,
Because if
yeah.
you were literally driving the car, you wouldn't let anyone take the wheel from you or you might crash
Right,
the car.
right.
Right? So stay. in that position. Stay in that driver's seat. Don't let anyone take the wheel from you. Don't let anyone get in your head and say, no, you can't do that. Oh, that sounds too big. Don't let anyone make you feel small. Because if that
Take up
were
space.
exactly,
Stand up, take up space, find your voice.
yep,
And it doesn't mean that we all have to be activists. That's not what we're talking about. It's
no,
you finding your role in your life, and then how does it reverberate out to the rest of the world?
yeah,
So,
be
with
a
that
role
in
model for
mind,
all other women, right?
right, right. So, how do you see the joy? How do you see the role of joyful risk taking evolving for women in leadership in the future?
I think it's going to get bigger. And I know that, people are seeing, oh, well, women are coming out of corporate, we're leaving, this and that's happening. But I think eventually that's going to course correct too. I think we're at a time now where, yes, women are having a hard time handling and dealing with everything. But I think, like all other things, there will be a change at some point. I don't know when. I don't have a, I'm not, not a crystal ball. But I do think at some point we will course correct again. And I think that we are going to start playing a pivotal role in our own futures again, because I think that we need to. And I think there's going to come a point where we're going to stand up and say, enough, enough of this nonsense. Here we are. Listen to us. And here's what we can do. And we're going to do it.
Yeah. And I think that is part of what's going on. When you talk about it's such a difficult time, is that the challenges, let's call it the gauntlet's being thrown down. I think women have picked it up, and now we're figuring out what to do with it.
And we
So,
will, we'll throw it back down ourselves at some point.
smack them across the face with it.
We will. I know we will because that's how we are. We don't take things lying down. We might be quiet right now, but that's for now. It's like the bear's going to wake up and the bear's going to come back and attack you at some point, right? So do you go and tick the bear off? No, but we're going to come back like that bear at some point and we're going to be like, huh, by the way, you made us mad and oops.
Yeah.
So
So, coming back to you personally, what vision is pulling you forward into your next joyful risk?
So really, it is always the same thing. Really making sure women rise.
Mm,
So my next thing is again trying to make sure that women are rising again. And I know you're like, that's a risk. Yeah, it's a risk because right now, if women are operating together, there are businesses that are being sued. And I don't know if anybody's heard anything about that, but so I'm not, while I may sound like I'm being quiet on the whole thing of wanting women to be together, I'm never quiet on it. I really, it's what I want. We need to rise again. And so, we need to come back together and we need to just, take things back over the way we were. I want us to come back into corporate, rise into the C-suite, and become leaders the way we were. And I will never stop being that advocate.
absolutely. And that fits within my mission for sure as well. So we are definitely fighting the same fight. And
Hmm.
I want to really just acknowledge there are a lot of women out there taking steps, and there are a lot of women out there working to rise and support each other. And that is my mission, is women for women. Women, it no one's going to understand a woman's journey better than another woman. And so it's us supporting first ourselves. We have to start within.
Hmm.
Then we can turn
Absolutely.
it around and help lift others up. So, absolutely love your vision, support your vision, and women are going to be so grateful to have heard these words of wisdom from you. And I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.